Um, your next project is a portrait of your eyes. It doesn't really have to be your eyes. It can be anyone's eyes. It can be friends. It can be, just pick a picture, a photo of eyes that you see. I found it was easier to work from a photograph, so if you want to take a picture, go right ahead and do so. I'm going to go through it step by step, and I put the picture up there for you so you can kind of see what I was drawing from. I'm not 100% happy with it, and I'll cover why, but for now I just want you to sort of focus on drawing eyes, and it's all about the detail, detail, detail. Remember that. So good luck, and make sure you have fun. Alright guys, so I started off by just taking a picture, and I didn't quite want it to be as dramatic as it looks, but it just ended up sort of looking that way. So again, these are my eyes, just because the great thing about being an artist and doing a self-portrait is you always have the subject with you. So I start out by doing sort of a rough outline, just sort of drawing in my eyebrows, this sort of rough sketch, and the sort of outline of the eyes. Now, the thing that I don't like about this final product is if you'll see how I sort of made the eyes a little bit too close together. You're already seeing right now how they're a little bit too close together. So I did do that. One thing I want you to remember about the pupil is you rarely see the whole thing. They're rarely like big discs in the middle of your eye. A lot of times there's a little bit of it that sort of fades into your lash line or the side of your eye. So now I'm deciding I kind of like the brow shape, so I'm going to make them thicker like they appear. I'm darkening on that mid-tone that I made, and sort of drawing the sides of the face. Now, see, I wish I would have realized how close they were together, but it's okay. Darkening the pupil a little bit. And this upper shadow is a big deal. This shadow of the lid really sort of creates the realism. Rarely are your eyes big circles. They're sort of these flattened football shapes. And then I created, you notice that the way that my eyes are and the angles, they're not exactly matching either. The one eye sort of has kind of a more slope to it because my head was slightly turned. Don't draw what you think, draw what you see. So a lot of times your brain will get sort of in the way of your drawing. So definitely draw just what you see. My first instinct, if I wasn't looking at a picture, would be to draw them both, sort of like the first one. And then I realized that they were different when I really looked at the photograph. So there I go, adding, so this is when you would get your eraser out and kind of add the highlights. There I am blending it, which you guys would do with your finger, not with a tool. There I am adding more of that shadow, sort of kind of really getting into the detail. I zoomed in on the first eye. Now the disadvantage I have in the computer is I wasn't zoomed out the whole time, so I didn't realize one eye in relationship to one another, and then I realized that they were sort of off, but it's okay. I'm adding more defined lines in my eyebrows, the little hairs. The shadow underneath, you can see how I'm creating that from what I see. And then it gets a little bit sharper, so I'm adding the more detail and blending it in, just like you would do with your finger or with a tortilla if you have one. It's a little bit hard to create detail with charcoal, I've discovered, and I think that like really hyper intense detail like this with drawing an eye, it might be easier to use pencil if you want. I'm adding more and more highlights. This is when you make your eraser really skinny. Notice the detail. You know, I added that little highlight in the corner of the eye, and that really made all the difference. One thing, I forgot to add more of a highlight on the rim, the lower rim. That usually makes it look very realistic. I should have emphasized that a little bit more, but it's okay. Adding the little highlight in. Oh, there you go. I remembered to do it. There is a highlight there at the bottom of your eye. Adding some definition in the eyebrow. Adding some more in the iris. Blending it, adding some eyelashes. And I think this is the point where I really started liking it. You always reach that part as an artist when you're working on a picture that you decide that, hey, I kind of actually like how this looks. And then you keep working. The other thing I noticed as I was working on this is I sort of turned it a little bit. So you can see how my photo, the bottom of my eye is very like horizontally flat, and in the picture I sort of tilted it. Not the end of the world, but something I can do better. Adding more clearly defining my shape. Notice I didn't start out with a big bold line. I sort of started out with kind of these light wispy lines, and then I committed later on. That's how I want you to think of it. First you do the test run, and then you decide you like it, and then that's when you add more and more detail and develop it. You don't start out with bold, harsh, hard pressed lines at the beginning. Then that leads you to make a mistake and spend hours making a mistake, which is not good. More and more highlights. Adding some definition to the eyebrows again. It's all about the tweaking. Tiny little changes here and there. Added a little bit darker lines. You can see sometimes I skip ahead a couple minutes in the tape just because I want to be able to fit it on the internet. Eyelashes again. Now see how I made wispy light lines, and then I decided when I kind of liked the placement that I was going to make them darker. Another thing I wish I would have realized is the fact that this pupil is lighter than the other one because of the light source. And this is, I think, when I realized the mistake I made with the eyes. I zoomed out and I realized that I sort of made one eye bigger than the other, and it's a little off. But all in all, I feel like it was okay. Blended a little bit. I'm happy with my details, I guess, but the overall picture I think could use some work. Now, here's my thing. So, I sort of, the idea I had is that I didn't want you guys to think that just because I'm the art teacher I never make mistakes. So, I wanted to put up this video in particular because I wasn't 100% satisfied with the way that it looked. I wanted to show you that I go through the same struggles that you do, despite my advanced training. I'm adding a little bit more definition of the face. And I think I'm about to finish. Some more shadows. I'll have to tell you guys, it's really interesting to watch myself draw when I go over this and narrate it for you. I think that a lot of times people don't really get a chance to see that, you know. You're not videotaping yourself the entire time you're drawing, so it kind of gets interesting when you watch yourself mid-process. I think that you'll find that you do things like this too, where it looks like I had the defined lines a little bit darker, and then I made them lighter by erasing, and now I'm making them darker again. Seems like I can't make up my mind. The one glaring obvious thing that I definitely could have done better on is it definitely appears like my pupils are two different sizes. But that's okay. So there's my finished product. I feel slightly satisfied with it. I feel like I could do a little bit better, and there's always room for improvement, but I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.